Gordy, after all of this time defending veterans and fighting what the Ninth Circuit Court calls the unchecked incompetence of the VA, do you feel that there is any improvement in transparency at the agency or its service delivery?
And that's an interesting question because there are really two parts to my answer. Some things have improved. They have to because the court is overseeing the process in a lot of these issues. And so there's some things they used to be able to get away with that they can't anymore. There's still a lot that they get away with that never sees the light of day. But, you know, it's an entrenched bureaucracy. It's huge. Someone told me one time, you don't turn a battleship on a dime. And, the agency is not going to change overnight either. I mean, most of the people are career people there. They do things the way they do them, and there's sort of an arrogance, I think, that comes with having control over people and making decisions about their lives. Surprisingly, there's a lot of people in the VA who think their job is to protect the public fisc. Or you see in the documents, most of these people are malingerers. Well, people are not malingerers. I mean, they're so paranoid, if I can use that term, about people faking PTSD that they deny a lot of valid claims. I don't think a veteran's going to fake PTSD and fake nightmares and fake all that goes with that. It's just not very likely. To the point where, and so many people have it, that some people have suggested, some leading scholars have suggested, it would be an easier system if we just assumed that if they made the claim for PTSD and it was backed by a private physician, we just grant the claim. Mm-hmm. Why go through the fuss and all the time of spinning in this hamster wheel phenomenon where cases go on for decades? It can get denied, go on appeal, it takes 5 years, comes back down, it gets redecided because they screwed it up the first time, it goes back up again, and the lawyers that are familiar with this are called the hamster wheel phenomenon. Is it much better? Not much better. The endemic problems like delay, they're far worse now than they were in 1991 when they had a task force, private task force, to look into why disability claims were taking so long. Really very good report, a very good analysis done, and it was by someone who later became a #2 person at the VA, former admiral. And way worse today. Way worse across the board, much worse today than it was in 1991. Notwithstanding the fact that they did adopt some of the recommendations. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of ironic at our trial, the PTSD trial. They were coming up telling the judge, "Oh, we're doing have all these new programs, all these to fix the problems and fix the problem of delay." And you know what their solution was for delay?
I can't imagine.
Well, you're going to be shocked, but perhaps not. Anyway, that they would shorten the time periods for the veterans to assert their rights from like 90 days to 30 days. That would save 60 days. That would improve their process. Not one proposal for how they could do something to shorten the process. And they said this, the judges said this in the Ninth Circuit decision, and it's true. There is not one stage in the entire process of the VA where the VA is under a time deadline. They can take their own sweet time on everything, and everything the veteran does has time deadline. Now, is that a fair system? And then their solution, we can shorten the time by shortening the veterans' times.
Unbelievable.
No, don't put a 5-year limit on us, or cut them down from 90 to 60 days, or from 60 to 30. That was their solution. It's a total lack of imagination.
It's only going to get worse with all of the returning vets.
It has gotten worse, and it's going to continue to get worse. Right. As long as these wars go on, there's a steady group, and a lot of them are on multiple deployments. And multiple deployments are a real problem because some people can take one tour duty, a year or 6 months if you're a Marine. Or no, I think they've extended to 14 months now for the Army, I believe. But anyway, the second time around, some of them start to crater, especially if they're in a lot of combat. Mm-hmm. Third time around, the rate really spikes up to the point where, and they don't count these people in their suicide rates, but people who have been recalled out of the reserves to go back a second or a third time, or reassigned service, still in the active military. Quite a number of examples I know of where the day before they report to duty, they blow their brains out. And I mean, and for the families, I mean, every time someone dies, whether it's, it's a man or a woman, every time a soldier dies, you typically have a mother, a father, a spouse, sometimes children. These families are affected. I just close with the story about Terry. Terry is his real name. He's a young man who lived in San Diego, and he knew another veteran who I had known previously, who was actually going back to law school. He got treated, and he came through it very, very well with PTSD. But anyway, this friend called me and said, Terry's with me, and Terry was in Iraq, and he was bent down behind a wall, and someone shot a rocket-propelled grenade at him, and it hit the wall immediately above his head. It went off, and he suffered traumatic brain injury, microscopic bleeding of the brain, and horrible post-traumatic stress syndrome. And they worked with him for a little while on it, but he was clearly very badly off. So they discharged him. They sent him back to Fort Carson, came back home, and they gave him a very low percentage disability rating, which is what they call under-rating problem. Just to kind of get rid of them and save money, they just give them a very small disability rating. Well, 20% disability rating or 40%, the amount of money is a few $100 a month. On short order, let's see if I can get the sequence right. His wife left him. He lost his home in foreclosure. He was having problems getting medical care at the VA, to be turned away. He became homeless. And when my friend found him, he was sleeping on the streets of San Diego. He was living on the streets of San Diego. 24 years old. 24 years old. And the real problem is the true cost of war. These are young people. They're in their 20s, most of them. Some of them are only 19 or 20. Caring for them with, huge mental problems. Traumatic brain injury affects your intelligence. I mean, your memory, you can't find your way around, even familiar surroundings. You're going to take care of them the rest of their lives. We're talking about 50, 60, 70, maybe years. It's expensive. It's expensive. Let's think about that before we go into the war,
right,
and think about how many people are going to die and how many people are going to get injured and what is that cost going to be. The funny thing, I don't know if you want to tape it on or not, but it's interesting. It's interesting. There was a fellow in the Bush administration, Bush Jr., before the start of the Iraq War, who had the temerity to suggest that the war might cost, I forgot what the number was. It was something like, I hesitate to guess, but it was a fairly small number. And he got excoriated and he got fired by the Bush administration for suggesting the war might cost that much. And it was in the low billions, I think $1 billion or something like that. Well, one of the latest bestsellers on the hardbound nonfiction category is the $4 trillion war. The war actually has cost thousands of times more than that official got fired, suggested it might cost at its zenith. And he got fired, and yet the war he was way under. Right. That's what happens when people speak out and people in government. Paul Stiglitz wrote that book. It's co-written, two professors, but Paul Stiglitz, I think, is the lead writer. It's either the $3 trillion war or the $4 trillion war. Forget, but it's whatever it was then. It's a year or two ago. I'm sure it's gone up
10 times that much now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.